My mother bought me an Ouija board. My dad wouldn't allow me to have it in the house, and due to many scary experiences I've had without a board, I was hesitant about it anyway. Well, today my friend and her dad wanted to give the Ouija board a try. The whole time, I was nauseous and had a bad gut feeling about it, but was also curious if anything would actually happen. We all live up in the mountains of Tennessee, practically in the middle of nowhere. So her house is out in the woods and it's already very creepy. We walked up behind her house leading to a cemetery, and there was a huge hill. I got tired and a very bad feeling that something evil was there, so I wanted to turn back. They, along with everyone else, believe that I'm sensitive to the paranormal. I am, so we turned back. We went closer to her house, but still in the woods by a railroad track. Her dad told us about 2 guys being killed on the railroad tracks. Their car was hit by a train. He only knew that their last name was Allen. I don't know exactly how the last name is spelled. So, we started using the board. My friend asks, "Are you a bad spirit?" and it replied no. So we decided to keep going. She then asked, "How did you die?" And I find this pretty funny that it spelled IDK. Not I don't know, but literally IDK. It started spelling something that went T-R. I didn't know if it was going to spell my name or train. Either way, it stopped. We asked the name of the spirit, and it spelled out Charles. We started freaking out, but even more so when it started to spell Alan. We didn't let it finish spelling that. I was so freaked out, I hardly looked at the board the whole time. We decided to cut it short, tell the spirit sorry we had to go. We told it goodbye probably at least 5 times. We wanted to be sure. At the end of it all, I decided to let my friend have the Ouija board. I've had many experiences where people have claimed that I, myself, have been possessed. I know for sure I've always been oppressed. I don't want anything to do with demons. The railroad ghost may have been nice, but I don't want to stick around to figure out too much more. First, I will give a little background. I was the second oldest of 4 kids. My mother was the middle child in her family of 4 as well. Each one of her childhood homes was haunted. She moved 3 times. As I grew up, my brother and my sisters believed our house was haunted. We would try to communicate with what was in our house, and each time, it would say it wanted me. Now, I live in a newly built home with my 9-year-old daughter, Chloe. My boyfriend's name is Hunter, though we don't live together. 2 years ago, I lived in a small apartment with my daughter, and before that, I lived at my friend Kaylee's with my daughter. Paranormal things happened in each of those places. When living with Kaylee, my daughter and I were sitting on the floor in front of the TV watching cartoons. My daughter got up to grab the remote, and the glass TV stand exploded, glass flying towards my face. The strange thing is, it came about a centimeter from my face and fell to the ground. That's the only thing dramatic that happened there. When living in the apartment, I always heard footsteps. Footsteps scratching on the walls, tapping noises on things nearby. Half of the time when I heard this, Chloe would be sitting with me or at a friend's house, so it wasn't her. They weren't normal footsteps. They sounded like a step drag, in random places in the apartment. My friends would hear all of this too. This is where things have been really stirred up lately. At my house, I was sitting in the kitchen and talking to my mother. Next to the kitchen is the laundry room. There's a silver rack with paper cups, plates, and an iron. Just a place for normal household items in the laundry room. One by one, things started falling off of it. Like being pushed off or something. I would be sitting alone in the house and I would all of a sudden hear a crash in that room. A sound like something big falling. Whenever I would go to investigate, there's never anything that fell. I often hear a lot of movement in the attic. The attic in my house is blocked off, so I don't know how to see what's up there. My dog Max always stares at thin air and begins barking loudly and aggressively. He's a golden retriever with no tendencies to be aggressive. He often has nightmares that last until I wake him up. Many small things happen that I just brush off. Me and my boyfriend don't live together now, considering we've only been dating for about 3 months, but when I go to his house, I always have a strange feeling. His front door will open and shut on its own. We will be talking in the living room, and I would get this strange sensation that I was being watched. We would leave the house just to make that dark, heavy feeling go away. Everywhere I go, it feels like this thing is with me. I've spoken to friends and my grandmother about it, and they all feel the same way. It does so many things, and it never shows itself to me, or said my name, or even touched me. But I know it's here. So I was just wondering, after all my experiences, am I being followed? I'd like to begin by giving you all a little background on my mother. My mother was a wonderful person. She was, in every sense of the word, a lady. My mom loved butterflies. She pasted stickers with butterflies and flowers on the walls of her house. And she also loved hummingbirds. Any birds, really, but especially hummingbirds. Mom was diagnosed with cancer for the second time, somewhat around Christmas of 2004. It became apparent early in 2005 that she wasn't going to make it through this particular battle. Mom asked me if I would go to this guy I had dated in high school, that she and my dad both just loved. His name was Jackie. I found him and told him that my mom wanted him to come see her before she passed away. He went the same week to go see her and started seeing her around 2 to 3 times a week. My mom passed away in May, the 25th of 2005. My mom had a different kind of humor about her, and sometimes you couldn't tell if she was joking or not. I remember her really telling me she would come back and check on us when she was gone. Mom always did believe in that kind of thing. After she passed, I started dating Jackie. My mom always said she thought I would have married Jackie when I dated him in high school. In September 2007, Jackie and I got married at 6 p.m. in the church I grew up in. The day of the wedding, I left home at noon. I got about half a mile from my house when I drove into what I described to as a cloud of purple butterflies. I immediately thought of my mom. I called my sister from my cell phone to tell her what happened, and she thought it was Mom too. I went on to church and got ready for the wedding. Everything went off without a hitch. Jackie and I arrived home after the wedding and had dinner, because it was a fairly nice evening, not too hot, not too cold. We went out and sat together on the front porch swing. We sat there for a little while just talking and holding hands when I saw a hummingbird. It just kind of buzzed around a little bit and left, so I didn't think much of it. Then 3 or 4 more hummingbirds came buzzing around. It was getting a little weird, but they left too. Then about 8 or 9 hummingbirds came buzzing around. Now, I guess I should mention here that I never put hummingbird feeders out of my house. At this point, I'm pretty sure that was my mom who was responsible. And I like to think that she was saying congratulations. It was the summer of 1975, and I had just turned 21. I, being on the wild and rambunctious side, found it necessary to find a place of my own. I soon found an apartment that had everything I was looking for, and it was cheap. I moved in with the help of my family and friends, rounded up the essentials, to turn the empty apartment into a bachelor pad. The apartment was located in a large 2-story building that had been used as a dormitory during World War II. Sometime after the war, it was turned into an apartment building. My apartment was on the 2nd floor, on the west end, apartment number 216. My first experience there, I still don't know what to make of it. As best as I can recall, it was my day off from work, and I was kicked back on the couch listening to music. The first sign of something wrong was when the music started sounding like it was far away, but the hi-fi was no less than a couple feet away. My head started spinning and was beginning to lose my vision. I could feel my heart racing. My first thought was, I'm dying. My second thought was, not now, I'm just starting to have fun. I'm now blind as a bat, but sitting upright with both feet on the floor, trying my best not to lose consciousness. As I'm sitting there trying to hold everything together, the darkness that I am seeing has changed to a mass of swirling colors. The music was completely gone and I started to hear voices. The voices were a mixture of laughing and taunts, making fun of my predicament. Great, I thought. Here I am dying and all I get is being made fun of. What a way to go. I get to my feet with the intention of trying to make it to my bedroom to lie down. I take a couple of steps and feel myself falling. I don't remember hitting the floor. I woke up several minutes later, and everything is back to normal. The whole ordeal lasted no more than the amount of time it took to play 5 or 6 45 records. While this experience was odd, it wasn't the only one I had in that apartment, nor was my apartment the only one that had activity in it. I heard the stories before and after this happened, but I wasn't the least bit interested. The only spirits I was interested at the time was 100-proof kind. The apartment building is no longer there, having been demolished to make way for progress. We may never know who or what haunted the rooms and halls of that old building. Maybe it's best we don't. This happened to me and my friends in 1988. But we were actually just talking about it again the other day, and I thought I would share to see if anyone has any thoughts as to what it could have been. To give some background, the story involves myself, my boyfriend Andy, his cousin Mark, and his girlfriend Tracy. It was a Saturday night, and we were doing our usual weekend thing of riding quads up the mountains behind Andy's house. His family owned several hundred acres, so we were on his property. And this is property that had been in his family for as far back as the early 1900s. The property had 4 houses on it, and a huge garage. All of our parents were down to the main house just hanging out playing cards. As I stated, this was the norm for us on the weekends. This particular weekend, my quad was not running very well, and since we didn't want to deal with it breaking down while we were up on the trails, I just rode with Andy. We'd been riding for about an hour, and decided to stop and take a break. We had a little place we kinda set up off the trail with logs, so we can sit and hang out. That night was a full moon, so we really had no need for any lights. We could see pretty much everything. It was beautiful. We were sitting there talking about stuff and laughing and joking when all of a sudden Tracy just got the most terrified look on her face. She was looking straight behind me, and she began to shake, and she had tears streaming down her face. I stood up and walked over to her and asked her what was wrong. And she was literally frozen in fear. I turned and looked in the direction she was looking, and that was when I saw it too. I stood straight up and kind of stood in front of Tracy. I grabbed Andy and told him to look at the top of the tree line, and he grabbed Mark. I wanted to make sure that we all saw what Tracy was looking at. I'm going to describe what we saw the best that I can. It had a big husky body like a bear, but its head looked like something you would see on a caveman. It was on all 4s, and its legs looked like horse legs. Nothing on this thing looked like it belonged on it. It was like it was morphed into all different kinds of things. Its eyes were blue, like what you'd see on a flame. Needless to say, we were scared. This thing was starting to growl at us and slowly stepped forward. We started backing up. I told Tracy not to run, but just to start making her way back to her quad and put it in neutral and start backing it up. We got her going, and she was making her way back down the trail to a spot where she could just coast down the trail when the thing lunged at us. We got on our quads, and Andy grabbed his rifle that he keeps with him and fired a warning shot at it. And to also get the attention of the adults down at the house. That was our way of letting them know that there was a problem since there were no cell phones. So as we were making our way down the trail, Andy was walking backwards and keeping an eye on this thing because it was still behind us, kind of stalking us. You could see it because of its eyes. We were about halfway down when his dad and uncles reached us, and Tracy basically collapsed at their feet. They thought something was medically wrong, and that's when Mark told them to look down the trail and to look for the blue flaming eyes. His uncle spotted it and turned his spotlight on it. We were all stunned, to say the least. This thing had no hair, and it looked as though it was inside out or something. It was the nastiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, not to upset anyone, but they did start shooting at it. They thought they had hit it, but we weren't able to track any blood or tracks for that matter. We went back down to the house for the rest of the night, and the next morning, we all gathered and went back looking for anything that would lead us to what this thing was or where it had come from. We could find no trace of anything, and we never saw it again. Tracy never went back out with us because she was completely terrified. I've always been fascinated with things that may be paranormal. The whole time I was looking at this thing was what kept going through my mind. I truly believe it was some kind of demon, goblin, whatever word you want to give it. So we continued to go out regularly, and was just a little bit more mindful of our surroundings, but never saw it again. Sorry this was long, but I knew the details were going to be needed. As always, ghouls, thank you for watching. I appreciate it so much. Things have been going right, actually. I said on Twitter, my fucking phone camera just died, so they literally overnighted me a phone. So now my phone has a working camera because it's a new phone. So that's pretty sweet. I don't know about my car. It's getting fixed. I don't know how long it'll take. They said a week and a half or 2 weeks, so that's fun. And furnace, the guy came. He thinks that he fixed it, but hopefully that works out as well. But yeah, how's your week going? I hope you have a fun weekend planned, because I do not. My weekend is staying at home and relaxing. Also, we have no car to take us anywhere, so not like we could go anywhere even if we wanted to. But yes, as always, the last video will be on the top left, the next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen, as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.